today have we got a treat for you. Because we are going to be trying something just a little bit different for today's sweet viewer sees the launch of a new format for the 6DOF Reviews team. So sit back, relax, and join us as we embark on our first ever episode of the 6DOF Reviews podcast. With me today, of course, is 6DOF founding father, editor, and corporate overlord extraordinaire, Omar Camel. Omar, how are you?
I am good, Pete. How are you?
I am very fantastic and very happy to be here. And what 6DOF Reviews event would be complete without the sultry sounds of our very own velveteen voice of VR, Doc Neal? And the answer to that question is this one. Unfortunately, Doc sends his apologies.
So I don't know if you can hear me, but this is a desperate cry for help. I'm working in Jersey.
So, sweet viewer, why are we doing this? And what can you expect from this all-new action-packed VR review podcast, you may be wondering? Well, sweet viewer, I'm glad you asked. You may have noticed, if you're a fan of the channel, that recently we've not been putting out quite as many reviews as we used to. There is a reason for this. The reviews, the long-form reviews that you're used to seeing from us, take a lot of time. Precious time that unfortunately these days, the three of us are finding harder and harder to cut out of our lives. Each long-form review, just so that you know, takes around 10 to 12 hours of time from everybody in the team, which we volunteer. And unfortunately, due to our real-life commitments, we are just finding it harder to carve that out to keep up with the insane rate of release schedules. Insane rate of release schedules. So we are still playing the games. We are still writing our thoughts down. We are just not getting those thoughts to you as quickly as we'd like to. So, therefore, and ergo, we now bring to you a review-based podcast that we hope to speak to you weekly about the games we've played in the last week and the games we're excited to play in coming weeks. But fear not, we are not doing away with our regular long-form reviews. These will still occur, but we will reserve that for the bigger titles that are probably more deserving of the time commitment, or smaller, quirky titles that really just grab our attention and we really want to tell you more detail about it. What we will be doing is using this weekly podcast format for a discussion of the smaller titles that are coming up, the titles that we have played, that we've formed pretty good, thorough feedback on, but not quite enough to do a full review. So each week, we're going to try to cover around 3 games, either from the new releases coming out that week, or moving through the back catalogue of games that we just weren't able to cover during 2024. We'll also take a few minutes each week to do a bit of a roundup of the VR news. And then, just for a laugh, each week, we will all pose a VR-related topic and put a poll up in the chat and let you decide which topic you'd like to have us discuss. So, that's what you can expect from us. But what can we expect from you? Not much, really. Turn up, watch the show, give us a thumbs up, and most importantly, interact in the comments. We will take time each week to catch up on comments that have been made and discuss your things, not live because we're not doing a live one, but we'd like to have a bit of posthumous... I lost my train of thought on that one. Let's cut that out. Anyway, so for those of you who have been following the channel for a few years now, you're probably used to Omar, Doc, and myself. But if you're newer to the channel, you might wonder, who are these
people?
And why do I care about what they have to say? So to that end, we thought it might be a good idea to reintroduce ourselves to you, tell you a little bit about how we came to be 6DOF Reviews, and what our personal oeuvre in the realms of gaming actually is. So without further ado and no further jabbering from me, I'll hand over to Omar. Omar, tell us, as founding father, why are we here?
Why are we here? We are here because I got into VR with the PSVR 1, and then I was traveling and I couldn't lug around the PS4, So I ended up getting a MetaQuest as soon as it was released because I was in the States at the time, and I played it and I loved it. First, I jumped into Beat Saber because it was what I was already used to, and then I tried Racket Fury and had a wonderful time playing some online ping pong against some complete stranger while we were having a chat, and it was a great experience. And I went online looking for a Quest-specific website, and I found one, and I didn't like it. It was crap. And I just wasn't very impressed by it. And I just sat up all night putting together my own website, called it 60OF Reviews, because I was thinking it's not just going to be Quest down the line. And that's it. Started looking for like-minded people to help writing reviews, and in time ran across Doc, ran across you, and we've been working together. And then at some point we decided to put together a YouTube channel, because not everybody wants to read reviews. A lot of people just want to see the gameplay while they're hearing what it is you have to say about the game, and that's how we arrived to where we are today. What about you, Pete? What brings you here?
Well, I came to the 60OF team by way of disagreeing with Doc, which I can only say because he's not here. Otherwise, no!
Keep your defenses up.
I was a gaming enthusiast since I was a boy in the 80s, and then when I became a dad many years ago, I was poor and I sold all my stuff to try and provide for my family. And so I stopped gaming for a long time, almost, let's say 6 or 7 years. Then I was at a work thing. VR was there and I put it on and I couldn't believe it. There were 2 games that I played, Elven Assassin and Arizona Sunshine in the Horde mode. And those 2 experiences, like the haptic feedback of drawing the bow and just the zombie shooter, it was enough to make me rekindle my love in games. So I became like a hyper enthusiastic VR supporter. This was literally a week before the Quest 1 came out. I'd never heard of modern VR. And then I found about it just as wireless VR came into existence for me, specifically for me. And then so I was avidly playing games on a really tight budget. I was reading 60OF reviews, every review that came out, because I couldn't afford to buy all the games. So I was a huge fan. And then Doc reviewed In Death Unchained, which admittedly launched with quite a few bugs and kinks, and super bright, fantastic studio. Worked with Doc and you and listened to some feedback. And so by the time I got around to buying it, it had all been fixed. And I thought, well, this is not a 7.5. This site that I love, that I cherish, that I respect, have got it wrong. They've made one mistake. One mistake. And so I wrote you, and I said in an essay all the reasons why I thought you should really go back and revisit that review, to which you very politely said, yeah, we can probably do that. That's probably fair. Also, would you like to try writing a review? And you gave me Solaris, Off-World Combat, and now I believe completely dead game, that I gave 5.5 for my first review. And thus, I came to be, as Pete Austin, the VR reviewer. So tell me, Omar, I'm going to swing back over to you. Now, let's put the review, the quill down for a moment.
All right.
What games are you into? What's your favorite if you get your hands on them?
Favorite that I'm currently playing, or favorite all-time Quest game, or favorite that I'm looking forward to? What are we talking about?
Not looking forward to. So if you had a specialty in the genre, if again, reviews on the side, what type of game do you look for? What do you go for in a game?
I'm generally drawn to single-player campaign games. I think that's probably my favorite genre, for single-player campaign, no matter whether it's a shooter or platform or whatever, just as long as you've got a single-player campaign with some kind of narrative. I like those kind of games. I also really like just quirky, what the hell is this kind of games. I could put Tentacular in that category. I could put Mare in that category. I can easily put The Under Presents in that category. That was one of the first games that really blew my mind, just because it was part game, part theater, part social hub, part learning magic tricks. It was just a very interesting cocktail of experiences that I've never quite experienced before. So I'm drawn to those sort of things. But yeah, so single player campaigns and just quirky, one of a kind experiences that I don't think we can experience anywhere else other than in VR.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This is why we work, I think, as a team. Because what you've just described are probably some of my least favorite types of games.
I can imagine.
That's not to say, like, I mean, I do like some single player campaigns, and I do love like that experience of like, God, you couldn't do this anywhere else other than in a VR headset. That's fantastic. But for me, I'm all about, you know this. I'm talking to you, sweet viewer.
You want to pick up and play.
I want to pick up and play. I want mechanics over everything else. It's immersion, sticky mechanics. It's gameplay. So I've talked about Stride in the past, but what I will say is I went back in last night. Hellsweeper has been out for over a year now, just over a year.
It must be over a year, yeah.
And I'm still playing it. It's one of those games that, you know, the core gameplay loop is there, and there's just different ways you can play it. All the mechanics work. It's just fun. You jump in 20 minutes, it's fun, and it's different to the last time you did that. Other games that I really like Underdogs, again, fantastic, sticky combat, really fantastic. You can just get in, punch some bots for a little while. Like that sensation when you get into the mech and you kind of boot up and you see the arms outside. Talk about immersive. Like that is straight away.
It really does feel like an exoskeleton on you.
Exactly. And it just really puts you into that sort of mode. So yeah, I like the quick pick up and play stuff. I'm a bit over them now, but a good combat-based roguelike will always raise at least one eyebrow. But you know, developers, we could stop for a little bit. Like let's take a deep breath and maybe do something else instead. But if you are going to do a single player campaign, Arizona Sunshine, you got to say the heartstrings, the voice acting. And the fact that it didn't overstay its welcome. I thought 6 hours was just fantastic. Yeah. And that dog, I loved that dog.
Narrative does get to you. You had as hard a time with Buddy as I did.
I did. I
remember we were both commiserating about, no spoilers, but Buddy, yeah.
I got to certain bits before you, and I'd be texting you like, are you there yet? Where are you up to? Where are you up to? Because I needed to share.
Yeah.
So
I think when something's good enough, it doesn't really matter what genre it is, honestly.
Yeah, and again, I agree. And that's one of the things, viewers, one of the great privileges of being a reviewer is every now and then you get assigned a game that you wouldn't normally pick up, and it broadens your horizons a little bit. And I think we've all made sure that when we go into reviews, personal preferences aside, the idea of journalistic objectivity. We really try to go in open, make sure that even if it's not our particular thing, we're looking at what's working, what's doing really well, how it's stacking up against its peers in the genre. But having the opportunity to play games, not just the games that I would normally play, but games that I'm assigned, has really given me access to experiences that I probably wouldn't have had otherwise. And it really is a great privilege. So we only get that because you guys are watching. I'm assuming there's at least 2 or 3 of you watching. Stuart Burns, hi. There you go. So thank you. Without people watching, we wouldn't get the privilege of being able to do that. So as promised, this is not a We Talk About Ourselves podcast. This is a review-based podcast. What we would like to do is offer you viewers 3 tiers of what we are going to, how we're going to analyze games. So we will still do reviews in this format. They'll be a bit more conversational. They might not be as scripted, and we will hopefully have both played it or all have played it so we can have a little bit of a chat about it. But for games that we really think that we've either played through to completion or that we've played enough that we can really give it a score, we will still give scored reviews in this format. For games that we possibly haven't got to the point where we really feel comfortable giving a scored review, what we'll do is we'll tell you everything that we know about that game to date, and we're going to give you what we call our gut score. Now, Omar and I, whenever we play a new game, we'll be texting each other, and we'll always get to a point where we're like, gut score. Now, gut score, I would usually have said, is pretty reliable. It doesn't change too much.
It's mostly reliable within a point, I would say, or half a point even sometimes.
What I will say, though, is recently there are 2 games that my gut score has gone all over the place. And I think we're going to talk about 2 of them in this episode today. So it's quite recent. But Astro Hunters was one where my gut score really fluctuated quite wildly. And Metal Hellsinger, which we'll do a review of towards the end of this. Again, my gut score went bing bong, bing bong, bing bong, which doesn't usually happen. So anyway, what we'll do, guys, is we will tell you how long we've played the game for, and we'll tell you our gut score, and we'll make sure it's clear to you that that's what you're getting is a gut score, because if we haven't got to the point where we are going to stand by that score till the end of time, we want you to understand that that's what you're getting. And then the third tier that you'll get is impressions. This will be, we've arbitrarily set any game that we've played for less than 2 hours. We can't even give it a gut score. Under 2 hours, it's not fair to the development team. We will, again, tell you everything about our experience with that game, and we won't give it any sort of score whatsoever. We'll just say, that's our impressions. Go ahead and have fun with it. So this week, what is on the docket, there's not a huge amount releasing coming up when this airs, which will be the 3rd of October. There is that I know of only one game coming out. It is The Calm Before the Storm. October is about to get very, very busy in the VR space. Yeah. So what we're going to do is backtrack slightly. We're going to have a look at some of the releases from last week and maybe even from slightly before that. So on that note, Omar, I think you had a game you wanted to tell us about.
I've been playing Exploring Wonderland, and it's from Cortopia Studios. They previously released another Alice in Wonderland related game, because this is an Alice in Wonderland related game. The previous game was Down in the Hole. I think it was Down in the Hole. Down the Hole. There you go. Down in the Hole. Okay, and I remember when I reviewed it, and when I played it, it was well made. It had a concept where you're going through a bit of a story. You know, it's another character. It's not really Alice. It's another character who fell into Wonderland, and the whole game had a unique sort of presentation in that it was played in a 360-degree sort of diorama around you. So everything was pretty small. You're seeing the characters and you're walking around. It's kind of like if moss was spread out all around you instead of being in front of you, in one sense. And but the gameplay was somewhat shallow in the sense that all you were really doing is it was a Where's Waldo. You're going around and you're looking for cards to collect, and you're just collecting them through different levels as you go along to the end of the story. So it's basically you're just walking around pretty dioramas collecting things and finding things. This new one, Escaping Wonderland, it's a character called Molly, and again she falls into Wonderland, and there's a bit more to it. It's the same basic game format in the sense that you've got this 3D diorama around you. You can rotate it like you would, grabbing roots and rotating it like you would the map in Demio or something, that kind of locomotion. The graphics are prettier. The soundtrack is quite good, but basically you're mostly, it has the main component of the first game, which is you're going around collecting things, but it also has some added elements in the sense that you've got first-person interactions now where you go into the character and you're doing things in the first person. Sometimes you're solving puzzles, sometimes you're talking to people, and there's like dialogue trees, simple dialogue trees. It's not, it's nothing too complicated, but you've got these things happening in first person which add some sort of element to the game. The puzzles it's nice to have the puzzles. I wouldn't say any of them have been particularly difficult. It's not really a challenging game. It's more of a fun looking around and solving simple puzzles kind of game. But I imagine it's engaging enough for an adult, and I imagine it would maybe be really fun for younger players where these puzzles are actually a little more challenging. I can say that. The graphics are cool. Like I said, the graphics are better than the first one. The audio is good. The voice acting is good. That's what I can say about it. Longevity-wise, I've played maybe 3 hours or so, and I think I'm halfway through it now, something like that. So I imagine that it's probably like a 5-hour experience, maybe 6-hour experience if you're taking your time a little bit. But yeah, it's overall, I get a good vibe out of it. I wouldn't put it in any of my favorite games of whatever category, but it's a fun puzzle game that's suitable for younger players to play, I suppose.
Yeah, I only had a chance to play it for about 20 minutes, give or take, myself, and I agree with pretty much everything you said there, just from that opening scene. Yeah. Cortopia are really, they're a great studio. That's a studio that if they produce something, I'm always going to sit up and take notice. One's Alliances, which is by Cortopia, that's one of my favorite shooters. If you're going to talk about the competitive shooter genre, it was so polished and so well done.
And very underserved by the community.
Yeah, I totally agree. That was a hidden gem.
Yeah.
But both of these games that I've played, again, that level of polish that you expect from a studio like Cortopia is absolutely there. I absolutely intend to let my daughter, who is now of legal meta age, this is one that I'm downloading a range of games into her profile that are appropriate for her, and I'm going to set her up with this and let her go. I think this would be, for that sort of 10, 11, 12-year-old mark.
Yeah, that's great.
Just bang on. Again, for me, when I play VR, I tend to only have these small snippets, and I like to jump into the action. So I can't see myself jumping into this one terribly much, but that's not in any way meant to be a criticism of the game. Like I said, I agree with all the things you said. The polish is there. It's really nice. The voice acting is really quite wonderful. Actually, I won't say who, but one of the reasonable-sized YouTube people that we're aware of, it does a couple of the voices there, and I was surprised by the talent he displayed. I'll put it that way.
Okay, that's great.
So there you go. Would you gut score it, or would you impression it on that one?
I'm sort of between the two. And also I think it's got to do with the target audience sort of thing. Like, I imagine that my gut score, as if I'm speaking for myself and not trying to be objective about it, I would say probably like a 7. But I imagine that for, again, younger players, that could easily go up to a 7.5, maybe an 8. So I would say it's somewhere between that, because you can't really, there's nothing wrong with it polish wise, like you said. In terms of polish, it is what it is, and it's very well made. It's just whether you're into that sort of thing, whether or not you find it challenging enough to be engaging. Those are really the hanging questions, I suppose.
Oh, fantastic. So there you go, everybody. Escaping Wonderland. And by the way, down the rabbit hole.
Down the rabbit hole. Thank you.
We needed to go back and get that.
It's right. Very specifically a rabbit hole, not just any random hole.
No, you can't just go down a hole.
You can't go down random holes. A hole, yes. Okay, so what about you? You've been playing a certain heavy metal game.
What about... Dude, I play VR.
Exactly.
I have indeed been playing Metal Hellsinger VR. Metal Hellsinger VR.
There you go.
And I think that hurt. So, Metal Hellsinger VR is a game that I have been really waiting for. I've absolutely been anticipating it. I don't mind rhythm games at all. But I'm over the ones where you stand in place and kind of just groove. Samba de Amigo, O-Shape, those sorts of ones, even to a limited degree. Like, Beat Saber and Synth Riders, fantastic games, and not so much for me anymore. But the likes of Pistol Whip, the ones that start to give you a little bit more action, that is what really drags me into something. So I have been hanging out for this one. For anyone who doesn't know, Metal Hellsinger was actually based on a really popular flat-screen rhythm shooter. And what happened was, I think it was around a year ago, forgive me for not researching my timelines, but the modding community put together a mod of this game, unofficial, and it was really popular. People really got into it. So well-produced was it that the actual developers of the flat-screen game saw it, played it, and went, this is fantastic, but also it's not fantastic enough. So let's stop and let's do this properly. Let's actually put together
a VR mod.
Well, no, not a VR mod. They built it again from scratch. So they partnered with Lab 42, which is a VR-centric development studio. And they said, no, we're not modding this. Let's build it for VR. Let's do it properly. That was the tagline. That was the thought process.
Okay.
So it's got the original devs working on it. It's got a VR experienced developer working on it. What could go wrong? That sounds exactly what you want. Yeah. So before we get on to what could go wrong or what may have gone wrong, basically what you get here is a little bit of a storyline. The storyline is presented to you in cutscenes that are like pages out of a comic book. The storyline is well voiced. There is a gnarly sounding dude who sounds a bit like Chris Christopherson from the Blade movies. Rest in peace. He's got a really cool voice, and he voice acts really well. It just, like, I skipped. After the first couple of cutscenes, I was like, you know what? This isn't the sort of game where I need a story-based investment. Just get me into the action. So there is a story. It's about a demon who is banished to a particular realm of hell, and her voice is taken away from her, and she must fight through the layers of hell to get her voice back. And the narrator is a skull, who is also the primary weapon. It's a skull that you hold that shoots fireballs out. And it is crap. It's a crap weapon, and I don't use it. And I really like. You've got this super cool idea of this character who is also a weapon, and he's naff, and I don't ever use it. But anyway, there's that. There's 8 levels. The levels are. It's a bit like with Pistol Whip, each song is a level, and it does work like that to a degree. But it's quite clever how they've made it, and I'll get onto that sort of a bit down in the sound section. But yeah, it's not so much that it is a 3-minute song and you've got that much time to play the level. You've got a level, and the music is responsive to what you're doing. So obviously it's got different riffs and sections, bridge, chorus, all of that sort of stuff. And depending on where you're up to and how intense the action is, the song will shift into the next mode. So it's not a song that you play, but it is, if I'm explaining that right. So essentially what you have, premise-wise, I could go back and sum it all up by saying, if Pistol Whip and Doom got down and dirty and conceived a baby while they were at a Slayer concert, that's pretty much what this game is. End of.
Sounds about right.
Done. So, in terms of gameplay, what really attracted me to this as opposed to other rhythm games is the fact that you are not stuck in one place with the world happening around you. It's a free roam, run and gun style game where you just get additional points for shooting on the beat. So the music is going, there's a pulsating heads up display to make sure that you're kind of more visually aware of where the beat is.
And the enemies' hearts are bodies are glowing red to the beat.
Yeah, they pulsate as well, and some of them kind of actually, their animation moves in time with the beat. So there's enough cues out there to keep you kind of intrinsically in time with the beat, and then it's up to you. You can just blast your way through it, and the weapons will do less damage if you're off beat, and you'll score less points, but you absolutely can just be like...
Significantly less, if I remember correctly.
Say again?
Significantly less damage if you're not on beat, if I remember correctly.
You want to stay on beat.
You want to stay on beat, yeah.
But you don't have to. Again, it lets you walk around and approach the combat kind of as you want. Each song goes through a series of progressions through a linear level, and then you get to a boss. And I'll tell you, I hate the bosses. I think this is one of my biggest criticisms in terms of replayability. I hated the boss fight so much that I don't want to go back into the game. I like the gameplay. The actual level, I would happily play again, except knowing that I'm going to get to a boss fight, I'm going to have to sit through 3 minutes of that crap. The boss fights are a net detractor from the overall game as far as I'm concerned in the long term. So that's just one thing that I will say. The movement is the other thing I really struggled with. And this is where they went from potentially having something really fantastic to something that landed in the mediocre. It's inconsistent. Sometimes dashes will really move you across the playfield, the level. Sometimes they're really short, and it throws off what your expectation is going to be. The walking speed, I think, is just under what it needs to be. If you think of that description of it's like Doom and Pistol Whip, Doom is fast, man. Doom, you charge around.
You're running through the levels, yeah.
Exactly. The foot speed was just too slow, I think. It really frustrated me. It really felt like it hampered what I wanted the gameplay to be. The general bits are there, so you can jump, you can double jump, you can dash, you can air dash. There are ways that you can make it really fast. And when it works, man, it really works. Like there were moments where you get into the flow state, and I thought it was fantastic. I was having the fun that I had hoped to have. And then something happens and the movement doesn't quite hold up to its end of the bargain. You think so, move how they're supposed to, or you get up to a boss, or the graphics are a bit janky, or something happens and it pulls you out of your flow state, and suddenly you're like, oh, that's not good. There were 2 other real things I thought that really let it down, and I think these have come from the flat game. And they probably worked really well in the flat game, and the translation into VR wasn't so good. But it's the weapon selection, and the weapon selection, actually, if I say it 2 different ways. So the array of weapons that you can have is pretty limited, and the ones that you get, each weapon has its own rhythm. So the shotgun, for example, the shot and then the reload is timed very specifically. So it takes away that freedom to be able to work your own rhythms in. When you're using the shotgun, you know it's going to be like it's got its own timing. There's a gun that shoots 3 in a row, and again, that's like a triplet, and you can't use it any other way. You have to just go do 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 do, and it's like that on the guitar.
Does the speed of the triplet change depending on which song you're using it on?
No, all the songs are like that.
They're not all the same tempo, I don't think.
In that case, it must. Like it's done. The triplets are done in a way that you can use it on every level and it works.
Okay.
So I didn't note that. That's a good point. Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Otherwise, that would be weird playing a triplet that's out of sync.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I was just thinking it in my head, and yeah.
So that again, you get the double pistols, and I used the double pistols the entire way through because they were the only ones that truly gave you the freedom to try and play your own beats and keep the percussion how you wanted it to be. So for me, the whole way through, I just used that, and then every now and then I'd switch to the shotgun or the explosive crossbow if I needed to do a bit more damage. But switching sucks, and again, this is where, like, at the best of time, I think wheels, like selection wheels, they're no good in VR. There's no reason at this point of VR where they need to happen. You've got 4 guns. You're only allowed to take 4 weapons in. Holster, 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 holster. Why would I possibly want a selection wheel in the middle of a fast-paced, rhythm-based combat? The selection wheel, you hold down the right stick to bring up the menu, and then you move your hand into the position of the gun that you want. Which means that you can't be doing anything else. Like it's really insanely unintuitive. Whereas what I should have been able to do is be shooting, holster, out comes the shotgun. That's the physicality of VR that really makes you feel like such a badass, and that was sorely lacking in Hellsinger VR. And it really, again, all the reasons why I did the entire game just with the double pistols, even though they're not necessarily the best game, it was the only one that gave me the freedom to play my way, to set the rhythm the way I wanted. And I couldn't be bothered switching weapons. It was like the amount of times I took damage because I couldn't get it right. Yeah, it wasn't great. There's a sword that you have to take in, and it's pointless, man. Like, it's absolutely pointless. Like, it's not.
I tried the sword briefly at the beginning of the game, and then I just went to a shotgun, I think, or I can't remember whatever gun I used. But in defense of radio selection menus, you've got what's it called? You've got that in Population 1. You've got that in Astro Hunters.
Well, okay, so again, that's responsive to like the click down on the thumbstick is not the best at the best of time when you're doing things.
Yeah.
A button press like the A or the X button or A or B button, that does make it a little bit different. But yeah, it didn't work for whatever reason. Like, it's a fast-paced game where you really, like, you want to be switching guns on the rhythm as well so that you stay in your flow state. And it really, like, there's a lag between pressing it and the selection wheel coming up. Then there's a lag between putting your hand in spot and the weapons switching. And it didn't work. You might find that it worked. You, sweet viewer, might find that it worked. For me, hard pass. It didn't work at all. So graphics-wise, I think this is another thing that lets it down. Now, you and I have really different experiences here. For me, performance-wise, it was barely playable.
Even after you tried it again in different sessions?
So, different sessions, I did for other reasons, but I did a factory reset of my Quest 3 and a fresh install of the game.
And it still was janky?
It ran worse. It ran worse the second time.
That's incredible.
It was like the hub world is just one room, and the frame rates in there are so janky and jagged. I couldn't wait to get out of the hub world. I just hated being there. So that was a huge drawback. The enemy design is cool, I guess. Like, I'm sure it's based on the original game, but when you translate it into VR, the assets are really quite poor. The textures aren't great. The animations are serviceable. They're okay. They are okay, but they don't do it justice. Like,
they're not fluid.
Yeah, slicker animations would have gone a long way to really selling it. Like, when you blast somebody, you want them to kind of like stagger back, and here it just looks like you're shooting chunks off of the cardboard model. It's it's not great. But all that aside, like, you know, if all the other parts of the gameplay had really come together, I wouldn't have cared. I would have absolutely been able to get past it. But again, those things about clunky movement, clunky weapon selection, and then you throw in jagged frame rates, it got really, really difficult to continue playing. The sound was pretty good.
In defense of that point, I'll just reiterate that I had no issue with the frame rates. on my quest.
Well, there you go. And I mean, I think that
why,
probably
yeah.
speaks to the fact that it's a problem over here rather than the game. But like I said, I've played it, fresh restarts, fresh installs, factory reset. I cannot get the game to run properly.
No.
And the last thing I say, I touched this on this before, but I think the sound design is really good. The voice acting is pretty great. The way that they've constructed the music so that you're never really aware of the fact that you're in a song that kind of, it's almost like procedurally generated, depending on where you're up to and how action-packed things are. You get different riff combinations. It's not just a straight linear song that plays its process regardless of how it's going to go. Like, it's a 6-minute track, and if you're not done by 6 minutes, it's over and you're in silence. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really clever. I'm not enough of a metalhead that, like, it's got some really well-renowned people from that genre that have contributed to the soundtrack. I'm not going to try and go, oh, it's this one, because I don't know who they are. I really don't. The System of a Down has one person who's contributed, but is it the guitarist? Is it the singer? I don't know. But you've got some actual credibility. If you're into that kind of music, this music should, in theory, hold up. I really liked it. I thought, again, I'm not a metalhead. I had a lot of fun blasting demons to this soundtrack. I thought it was great. So I think where I'm going to land on this is a review score. I am going to give it a score. That score is going to be 6.5. Again, there are things that really worked, and when it works, it should have been better. It should have been an 8. If there's still a chance that they could iron all that other stuff out and it could get up to a notable 8. But where it is now, as it stands, terrible, boring boss fights, janky frame rates for me, poor weapon selection. That's where it's going to land.
Okay. I'll agree on pretty much everything you say, but I will disagree on. I didn't like the main voice acting at all. I thought it was just. I felt it was overdone and exaggerated. It's like somebody trying really hard to be all, American sort of cowboy sort of drawl. I just thought it was too much for my ears.
I see. I blame the script more than I blame the actor. I thought the actor did fine with what he had.
Oh, okay. You think the problem was with the lines? I'm not sure now. But I just remember being annoyed by the voice acting, but it could have been it could have been a problem with writing instead of voice. I'm not sure.
If you're served a plate of cheese, who are you angry at? The person serving you the cheese or the cheese itself? It's the cheese.
No, it's always the cheese.
But then, guys, welcome to the podcast, guys. We can do this. We can discuss different things rather than it just being me doing a recorded voiceover, and that is now the word of law. I really like this, Omar. We should do this again.
We should do this again.
So what should we talk about next? We've got Astro Hunters on the docket. We
can mention Mannequin, but we've got a review up.
Yep. So I really wanted to just do a quick dip back into Astro Hunters, and then maybe we'll do impressions of Exploding Kittens, which will release if this podcast goes live on the 3rd, which we are intending. It releases today. But before we do, one thing that I really wanted to speak to you, sweet viewer, about is Astro Hunters VR. Sorry, Omar, I'm just going to barrel into this one. Omar and I played pre-release quite a bit of Astro Hunters VR, and we liked it. I probably liked it even more than Omar, but I was really infatuated with it. We, in fact, have an impressions video of it. Links, click here, click, wherever you are. At which point, if you watch that, you'll spend 22 minutes watching Omar and I play it, and me basically say, I'm really impressed with this game, I really like it. So then the game launches, it installs an update, and since the game went live, the gun mechanics... they're terrible. I don't know what's happened. It's almost unplayable. And now suddenly I am getting hard crashes and all sorts of nonsense. So I just wanted to take a quick moment to say my initial thoughts around the potential of the game stand. I think the game could be really, really good. But something has happened. I've died so many times because I've been reloading a gun, and you've got the cartridge and it just won't go in. It just absolutely won't click into place at all. Or again, I'm not a gun guy, but the lever, the thing that you pull back to cock the gun, you can't grab it. Like, it's there, it's glowing yellow, indicating that you're supposed to, and you're trying everything you can, and you're under heavy fire, and I just keep getting shot down because the guns somehow just stop working. And it's not one gun, it's almost across the entire range of guns. So that's happened. I've also had 3 hard crashes, one which actually crashed the entire headset. But what happens is in an extraction shooter, if you hard crash in that game, everything you're carrying is gone. So I lost several times. I lost all the stuff I'd brought in. I'd lost all the stuff I'd collected. And then there was one extra time where the game just glitched and the vessels that you escape on just stopped coming. Yeah. And I had such a haul. Oh my God. I had epic this, epic that. I had everything. I was fully loaded and ready to go. And in the end, I had to switch the game off. And not only did I not get my epic haul, but I lost everything that I'd taken into that. So Astro Hunters VR has potential, but where it's at right now, have caution, because I'm done. Until I know that there's a patch that's come out that's addressed those main issues, as much fun as I have had playing that game, I am not loading it up again, because I'm sick of going in and losing all my stuff. Not because I suck at games. I don't mind when I lose because I suck. But
you mind a little.
I do, but I'm used to it.
It stops you playing some games. I could talk about Bleachers.
Bleachers.
Breachers. Yes.
Yes, the fact that I'm terrible at Breachers means I don't play it, even though I think it's one of the best FPS.
It is one of the best, yeah.
I won't play it because I just die. I'm a burden to people.
Fair enough.
So that's what I had to say about Astro Hunters. Omar, Exploding Kittens. Have you exploded any kittens?
I've been blown up by a few Exploding Kittens, yes. But I'm new to the game. I've never played it as a card game or a party game or whatever it is. So I think you're one who's got a lot more experience with that game, generally speaking. And you beat me when we played.
True. Well, look, I think we won't touch on it too much. This will just be a bit of an impressions piece. But if you have played Exploding Kittens, I'm a huge fan. My daughter and I play the actual card game all the time. Like, I'm a huge, huge fan. Exploding Kittens have a range of different games. It's not just that. They have all these different cool card games, and I own almost all of them. And it's one of those rainy day things that my daughter and I do every Sunday. It's like, well, can't go out, can't do anything. Let's play one of these games.
So what are you supposed to do? Are they all as devoid of logic as Exploding Kittens seems to be?
Well, I mean, it makes sense in terms of the rules. Are you just complaining about the fact that why is the kitten exploding?
None of it makes any sense to me. The tortilla tomato, like tortilla cats that you put together to get a magnet, and like none of it makes any sense to me.
Yes, they're all like that. They have a whimsical sense of humor, a quirky, whimsical sense of humor.
Okay, a quirky, nonsensical sense of humor.
Yes, indeed. Okay. And it's something that my daughter finds particularly enjoyable. She has particular favorite cards. Like, no, I want the one where the cat's farting on the something. Like, you know, it lands.
Okay.
So if you're not a fan, or if you don't know the game, it's a competitive card game where basically each card has actions, and you're trying to avoid, within the deck is a kitten that explodes. And if you get the kitten and it explodes, you're out of the game. And so everything is about trying to pass your turn, get items that protect you, disadvantage the other players. It's that sort of competitive, fun party game. As opposed to being like gin rummy or poker or something like that. Are we doing ads now?
This is very good.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
You'll continue.
So the whole game works around trying to mess with your opponent so that they get the card and you don't get the card. What they've done for the VR version, rather than sitting there and playing a game of cards, I think they've done a really nice adaptation. So that you get a box and you can't see. There are all these balls in the box, and within each one of the balls is an item, one of which will be the exploding kitten. And so you can't see, and you press the button and the ball comes out, and whatever you get is whatever you get. So instead of playing cards, you'll do things like, there's one card that lets you see the top 3 cards of the deck in the card game. So in the VR adaptation, you get X-ray specs, and you put the X-ray specs on, and then you can see what's inside the next 3 balls. So it follows the rules authentically, and it delivers on the promise and the premise of the original source material, but it does it in a way that allows you to enjoy the mechanics of VR. And so without like giving you an instruction tutorial, that's what it is. That's what it does. And it does it pretty well. It like, if you like that game, it's a fantastic piece of source material, and it's delivered well. So it lands that really well. What it also has, though, is a social hub. And I don't know about you, Omar, but I was really disappointed with the social hub. I didn't think there was really any. I personally think that if you're going to go in, you're going to play your game. The social hub had a few mini games, but you have to earn coins to play the game. The games are really short. There's not that much that you can interact with, and I just don't see people logging on to Exploding Kittens to hang out in the social hub.
And to play Chuck E. Cheese type of games.
Which, again, you have to play
Whack-a-mole, I don't know what else, yeah.
Whack-a-mole and Pong and that sort of thing. But a successful round of one of those games goes for under 60 seconds, but you have to successfully win a game of Exploding Kittens in order to get a coin to play it. Like, I played each of the mini games one time, and cool. I don't need to do that again. Thanks. That's not why I'm here. So that's, I mean, maybe if there's a bunch of kids playing, they might find that to be fun. But again, I know what my kids are like going to a real arcade, and I know what my kids are like when they choose to put on a VR headset. And I really don't see that being an experience I feel like, unfortunately, the developers have put a lot of time developing that for no reason. I think it would have been better to maybe get one of the other Exploding Kittens games and give you a different table where you can play one of the other games owned by the same franchise.
It's because you're out of the game.
But hey, that's just me. But anyway, look, Exploding Kittens comes out on October the 3rd. If you are a fan of it, it is a very good adaptation. I see it being really relevant to people who have game nights. Like if you've got a group of friends that you play with who are spread across the world or the country, and VR is your way of hanging out together, then fantastic. If you were somebody who was maybe in a different country to your child, and this would be a really great way that you could spend time together. Really fantastic for those sorts of use cases. I would say for me personally, I've got 2 headsets. Will my daughter and I choose to go into VR to play Exploding Kittens? No. We'll just get the deck of cards and we'll play normally. That's what it would be.
Okay. You don't feel it adds enough to the experience that you would play it in VR instead of playing it in real
No,
life?
I don't. But say, for example, if my wife took the kids on holiday somewhere and they took one,
then you will play. Okay,
absolutely. So for people like if you're an only child, for example, if my daughter was an only child and she was like, "Daddy, I want to play," and I'm like, "I'm too busy. I'm working. I'm making a podcast. I'm a famous podcaster. Play by yourself." Then she could play with other kids. I think the player base will be interesting to see who's out there and what they're like. But yeah, I think there's a bunch of use cases that would be really well suited to playing Exploding Kittens, but it's not necessarily going to be for everyone. But if you have played the game, it's exactly as good as the card game. And if you haven't, however you can get your hands on it, play Exploding Kittens. In whatever format it is, the game's cool.
A high praise.
Yes. Well, that's Exploding Kittens. That's Astro Hunters VR. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, Omar? I know that we are running out of time.
We are running out of time. We've both been playing Mannequin, but I've got a review of that, and it should be up by the time this podcast goes on. Gets posted. So if you're watching this and you want to watch Mannequin, go back to the previous video that we've uploaded, and you should find a full review there. It's a fun game. It's got its own little issues, but I think we've both had a fairly good time with it.
Yeah, it's been really good, actually. And that's one thing I will say is I've met some really nice kids in that game.
We had a really good time with those kids were nice and fun to play with.
No, Karma, no! I'll stay for one more game with you guys.
I always feel really bad, though. Like, we played last night, everybody, and I'm putting my kids to bed, and I'm like, "Kids, you got to go to bed. Our dad's got to go to work. I've got to go do some work." Like, "But Daddy, we love you. We just want you to play with us." I'm like, "I can't play with you. I've got to work." And I go upstairs and I play with other people's random children. I entertain them, and I felt really bad the whole time. I'm like, "Oh, I really should be with my kids," but
different time zones.
This is for you, sweet viewer. The sacrifices I make as a father.
Terrible sacrifices, really.
Well, I think, Omar, with our last few minutes, let's have a bit of a chat about October. Busy month, lots coming up. What are you personally looking forward to the most? And yes, you can say the big titles.
I can say the big titles? Wait, so when is Metro coming out? Is it also October?
No, Metro is November. I'll get my spreadsheet open. I want to say November.
So I guess the big games is definitely just going to be Batman, I suppose.
Metro is November the 7th. And Behemoth has been pushed back to December.
Oh, so which other than Batman, what's coming out in October?
What's coming out in October, you say? Oh my God, hey,
That's what I asked. Yeah, I'm not keeping track. I've lost track.
oh my goodness. So Frenzies from Endream is going to go into early access.
Are we allowed to talk about that at all? I'm not sure. There's an embargo. We can't say.
We can say that we've played it.
We can say that we've played it. Yes,
and then that's it.
That's all we can say. Yeah,
right.
No smiles, no frowns, nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
Nothing.
Early access on the 10th for that one.
Yeah.
Then you've got Just Dance comes out on the 15th. Again, my daughter is so psyched for Just Dance. I could not give two craps about it. But what I am, the one that
Dance just came out like a week ago or a couple of weeks ago. So I think there's a couple of dance games that are coming out at the same time. So I don't know which is better. I have no clue.
Well, Just Dance is an incredibly popular franchise that's been out on all the consoles, and there's YouTube
Dance has no history behind it.
I don't think so. I think that's just a new rhythm game.
Okay, all right. What else?
One that I'm really, really excited about is Maestro. I've played the demo, just that one piece of classical music.
We were very differently impacted by Maestro. I was not very impressed, but you loved it.
I loved it. I can't wait to get a hold of it. I really, really can't. I had so much fun.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I remember you telling me you were excited about it because you played the demo, and I was like, I played the demo, and I'm like,
oh man, I got all theatrical up in it with the hand gestures.
Okay.
You can do it with controls, you can do it hand tracked, and they say, get a pencil or something, so you've got a baton to wave around.
I think that might have been better. Maybe I should have done it with the hand tracking. It might have been more fun. So you played it exclusively with the hands.
I did both versions.
Okay.
But again, it's about if you nothing your way through it, then that's what you're going to get out of it. But if you really do... Maybe that's it. Maybe you put more energy into it. So Maestro, for me, that was a big one. Arizona Sunshine Remake, I can't wait for that. Yeah. Arizona Sunshine 2 has, I think, the best gun mechanics in VR right now. I think it's great. I'm looking at the remake as more content for that, because they've brought that old classic, which I played the Quest 1 version recently just to see how it holds up.
That was ages.
When was the last time you played that?
Years ago.
It's so bad.
Years ago.
I do not remember it being so bad.
But the shooting was good. I mean, the graphics were crap, but the shooting was good.
So what I found is my experience with Arizona Sunshine 2, my brain just overlaid that on top of all of my memories of Arizona Sunshine. Go back and play it. Like, they did the best that they could. I don't want to.
At the time, back then, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to.
No, but I remember even when I played it when we first reviewed it, I remember thinking the Quest could do better. Even the Quest 1, it could do better. It felt like a game from the 90s.
Well, it sucked. I went back in a couple of weeks ago and I played through the first hour, and I was like, I can't do it anymore. I can't. I wanted to refresh myself ahead of reviewing it, but okay, that's enough. But putting the sequel's mechanics into play,
into the campaign, into the first one.
I'll happily play
the DLC. Yeah, same here.
And then you've got one more that we'll talk about. And again, we can't talk about it. We can talk about it because there's a demo out, but we have to limit our discussions.
Oh, you're talking about VF.
Vendetta Forever. Yeah. So Vendetta Forever, we did a quick impressions video when the demo came out.
It was 5 or 6 levels, and we recommended everybody give it a shot because, hey, why not? It's a free demo and it's a cool game.
And so that comes out on October 24th. And all I will say is download the demo. It is still worth playing, and I will tell you more about my thoughts on the full game. I don't know if anyone's played the full game. I don't know if it exists yet. But on the 24th, stay tuned. I might tell you some things, but I don't know what they might be. No idea. No idea.
No clue. Yeah, no clue. I don't know if it exists either.
What is it? I don't know.
I have no idea.
So there's Wanderer Fragments of Fate. That's coming out on the 31st.
I think Doc was really excited about that, or were you? I think it was Doc who was super excited about it.
So the PC version was universally acclaimed as an excellent puzzle game.
I've never played it. Okay. What kind of puzzle are we talking about? Are we talking physical puzzles like Half-Life kind of thing, or what kind of puzzles are we talking about?
I've never played it. A puzzle adventure game set throughout time. So the puzzles that you're solving involve time travel in some way, and that's all I know. Like I've heard nothing but praise for this game. So
I'm wondering, like, so you're going through different time periods, and there are puzzles in different time periods, or are there puzzles that extend across time, where you have to do something in the past to set up something in the future, where you're solving the puzzle across a chronological sort of dimension?
It is my understanding that it is the latter.
That would be very cool.
I don't know, not having played it, but it is my understanding that it is the latter.
Okay, that would be very cool, actually. That could be a nice little twist.
Actually, viewers, if you know the answer to Omar's question, jump into the chat. There's no chat. Jump into the comments. Tell us what you thought of the original Wanderer. And then just before we leave, obviously there's Into Black, which is, I think, looks really, really interesting. That's from Binary Mill, who made Resist, and I definitely intend to jump into that because I trust that studio. I will play every game that they make until they give me a
very well. Yeah.
There is just released yesterday Starship Troopers, which could be an absolute load of crap, or it could be fantastic, or it really could be anything in between. That comes out on the 17th. Busy day. 17th is Arizona Sunshine Remake. It is Maestro and Starship Troopers all on the same day. The studio that's doing Starship Troopers, they did Zombieland Headshot Fever, which I really enjoyed.
Which was good, yeah.
I saw the trailers for that before it came out, and I thought, what a piece of crap cash grab. That looks terrible. And then I played it, and I found it to be...
Feels better than it sounds like it would be.
Yeah. The actual playing of the game...
The actual gameplay feels good, but it doesn't look it. If you just look at images or see a trailer, it doesn't look like it's very good.
But it was so much fun, man. Like it
was
really...
a lot of fun.
So on the basis of that, I'm like, oh, maybe this could be good. I might mention also that it's the same studio that made Hitman VR, which I haven't played, but Doc
not made, but ported, I would say.
Yeah, ported. Okay.
Yeah.
They are responsible for the VR adaptation. That and again, if you're interested in what that's like, Doc did a brief impressions video, and all I can say is I love Doc. The game looks so bad, I couldn't even get through Doc's video. Like, I will listen to Doc talk. If he was reading a recipe for scones, I would be like, oh, do tell me more.
But not Hitman free.
I got 8 minutes into that, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. Thank you. So I'm very interested to see what Starship Troopers can come up with.
Yeah.
And then I think our final farewell, Omar, there's a game. There's a game that we all know it's coming out.
There's a game we all know it's coming out, and we're all very excited about it. And we've seen some short gameplay videos of it.
What game is that? I'm Batman. Batman, come on. I could not be more excited. I haven't been this excited about a VR game I can't even. I think actually it was Hellsweeper was the last time that there was a game that I was this I anticipated this much.
He is so excited about Batman, but he actually went back and played the Arkham games, even though he hates pancake games.
I don't play pancake.
Yeah, he sacrificed his integrity. He went to play pancake games, and he loved Arkham.
I played 6 hours. I played it, and I was like, "This is one of the best 2D experience games that I can imagine playing." And I still
easily was.
And I still could finish it. I was like,
I've finished each and every one of those games. But
So I played just enough of that to remind myself of the mechanics that the VR game is going to be trying to emulate. And it was enough for me to go, what an amazing pancake game. What an amazing flat screen game. Big shoes to fill. And
I'm not sure if there's any. I didn't spoil myself by watching some of the gameplay videos that do exist by other YouTubers because I didn't really. When it's a game that I'm really excited about, I'd rather know, the least possible before I get into it. Especially if I trust the developers, which in this case I do. I think Camouflage did an amazing job of Iron Man, so I'm just looking forward to seeing what we're doing with Batman. But One of the things that occurs to me, and again, maybe the gameplay videos answer this, so I could just be repeating something that's already been answered, but like one of the great things about the Arkham games was just the fluidity of the combat and how you got into a flow state, even though it's a 2D game on your screen, but you get into a flow state just going, you know, in the middle of combat and being able to rack up a combo of like 60 or 80 and just by not getting hit and by being really good. And I just don't see how they could possibly translate that into VR, but I'm very curious to see if they do. And if they're even halfway successable, that could be incredible.
Again, I have watched every impression of anybody who has played the game.
I've avoided it like a plague, yeah.
I've watched interviews with the developers.
Does it answer my question?
Well, look, nothing answers that question until you're in the headset and your expectations are met.
Fair.
What I will say is that the developers have actively said that going into it, recreating that flow state combat was the most important thing. And they said until they had a working proof of concept that they could do it in a satisfactory way, they didn't start working the rest of the game.
So they sorted out the battle sequence, like how the battle gameplay mechanics would go before they built the whole game.
Yeah, that was basically in order to get the rights to do it, they had to present that. If I'm remembering correctly from an interview,
that's
was the big thing where they were like, "You might be wondering if we can translate."
Yeah,
you tell us what you think, and then like obviously the YouTube brigade that get invited to fancy meta events because they have more followers than us, because they work harder at this than us, like most of the time.
Yeah.
They have been relatively positive, but again, I don't want to let's not get fourth-hand information involved here.
Yeah.
But I've seen some footage. I like what I saw. I've heard some things, and I like what I heard. Just leave it at that.
Fair enough. Sounds good.
Great. Well, look, sweet viewer, that is all we have time for in today's episode. This was our first episode. Expect as we do this each week, we'll become a little more streamlined. We'll get the hang of it. I will hopefully sort out the lighting so I don't look like a floating egg in a black background.
And I should do something about a camera because this is like...
I thought you were going to say do something about your face.
It looks like you're playing it on an old Nokia phone. But yeah, my webcam is crap.
Well, look, we intend to keep doing this, guys. We intend to get better. Please put anything that you feel like in the comments. I'd rather it wasn't insulting, but, you know, whatever. Yeah. Engagement's engagement.
And we should streamline the content because we didn't even get time to talk about any of the news or anything like that, or topics or anything. Really.
We'll get better, guys.
We'll get better.
But like I said, what we're going to do each week is give you reviews in this format, and hopefully you'll keep coming back. Omar's going to put up a poll on YouTube, and you can vote to see what topical discussion you want to hear us discuss next week. And we'll see what we can do about getting Doc in here as well, because we both know that he's your favorite. We understand this. Fine. He is sexy and cool. I understand. So until next week, and we'll see you at the same bat time, same bat channel. If you enjoyed this, like, subscribe, do the YouTube things. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.